Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Talk radio for the thinking person, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
Gene Genie lives on his back. The Gene Genie loves chimney stacks.
It is the Savage Nation. You can kill the music now if you don't mind before I go deaf with these headphones. Once again, thanks to Comcast, I am in a radio station, no longer in a home studio in Florida. And thanks to WFTL Radio in West Palm Beach, Florida, I am speaking to my loyal audience. Today on the Savage Nation, we're going to try to have a Trump-free day. You heard me, a Trump-free day. Because if you said God as often as you've said Trump over these last few weeks and months, you'd be assured passage to heaven itself, if not sainthood. Think about how many times you've said the word Trump over the last few weeks and months. Now, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against him. But enough is enough. I once gave a show, and I said we're going to have an Obama-free day, remember? When every minute was Obama, 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 like he was the sun, the moon, and the stars. So that's the story. We'll have a Trump-free day. So what do you want to talk about? Bingo, Trump. The first call. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump was on my show last night, and he said on this show that ISIS is going to get worse than waterboarding when I brought it up. Well, boy, did that set off a shock. Mexican president compared Trump to Hitler and Mussolini. Look who's talking. CNN's, to me, he's like a Mata Hari, like a double agent, Zachariah with the crazy eyes. You know Zachariah on CNN? Does anyone know him? Raise your hand. With the bug eyes. The resident front man for CARE, it looks like to me, in my opinion. Well, anyway, the bug eye on CNN, Zachariah, likens Trump's rise in the GOP to the rise of Islamic extremism. Well, what I say is, you know, I've studied homeopathy. Like cures like, Mr. Zachariah. And the only way we're going to defeat your friends in that world of Islamic extremism, if they are your friends, in fact, that I wouldn't know, the only way to defeat them is like cures like. We need an extremist to defeat them or we're dead. We are dead in the water unless we defeat them. And let me tell you something. There's only one thing those vermin understand, and that's worse behavior than their own, which kind of leads me to a couple of questions. Can you imagine life? Let's say it's Trump versus Hillary, which is what it's starting to look like. And let's say they don't stop him, the Romneys and the other country club Republicans who hate outsiders, who despise independents. Let's say they can't stop him and he becomes the nominee. And let's say it's him versus Hillary. And let's say she wins. Because whatever she wins, just say she wins. Let's not go through it. Despite the email scandal, the Clinton Crime Foundation, despite the history that she has in the White House, despite all that, because of the idiocy of the American people, and she wins. Would you imagine with me for a minute, 3 years after a Hillary presidency, what this country would be like? What would this country look like after 3 years of a Hillary presidency? You have to imagine the world after 3 years. And I think you have to turn to a university today to understand what's liable to happen. The fascism, the unconstitutional fascism on colleges today is what America itself will look like if she wins, in my opinion. Well, she's certainly better than Bernie Sanders, the communist. We understand that. But if you look at what's going on in the universities today, that's what America would look like. So, you know, if you want to talk about that, the phone number is 855-407-282. But there's a bigger topic other than the political itself, and that is the issue of truth. I was speaking with some people before the show today about truth. And so where do people turn for the truth today? You ask a politician a question, you don't get an answer. You get a waffle, right? So I said, well, don't turn to politicians for the truth. They're only politicians. What can you expect from them? So who do you turn to? Oh, your priest? You're going to turn to your priest for the truth? Tell me about the church today. Tell me about the synagogue today. Who do you turn to for truth? People don't know who to turn to for the truth. So I will ask you, my audience, who do you turn to for the truth? Where do you go for the truth? Now, many of you listen to talk radio because you think you're hearing the truth, and you are. I know in my own case. I tell you what I think is happening. I try to express certain things in my personal life. But honestly, you can't expect that we're gods. None of us are gods. We're all people. We're all flawed. You know that. We're not better than the average person. We're just talk show hosts. It's like the old statement of the rich are different than you and I. They have money. Well, talk show hosts are different than you and I. They just have a microphone. But we're just people is what I'm saying to you. But in an age of such chaos and confusion and lies flying around, where do you, the audience, turn for truth? All right, it's an interesting question. I don't know whether I'm going to get any response. You're probably going to call about Trump no matter what I ask you. No matter what I say, I'm going to get a call about Trump. So, go for it. It's 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. I see no one called on that. Very nice. Yesterday, I tried the story about Scalia. Was he murdered? With the evidence put out, nothing, not a call on it. All we got was Trump. So no matter what I try, I'm going to ask you again about truth, because it's all about truth. Where do you turn for truth? Many of you are jaded, you're cynical, you're depressed, you don't know where to turn. You don't know what to believe. Everything is a lie. Look at Fox News. Look what they've turned into. Last night, they do a softball town. I love the word town hall. Don't you love town hall? 18 stooges that they pick. They handpick 6 schmendricks and a moron to sit in the audience. And they have a town hall meeting with Brett Baer, who I used to respect, by the way. I have no respect for him anymore. He's become a water boy for whoever runs the network. So they have a softball town hall meeting last night between Hillary Clinton and the communist Sanders, who practically foamed on himself with the amount of whatever. And not one question was really a challenge to either of them. Instead, everything was a softball aimed at Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. This is the same network where they use the vicious Katie Kelly, whatever her name is, Caitlin Kelly, I don't know her name. Katie Kelly, I think is her name, the roller derby queen. Megan Kelly, the roller derby queen, whose face is changing before our eyes, the portrait of Doriana Kelly. On a daily basis. Where do you go for the truth? I'm serious about this question. But before you call, before I take your calls at 855-400-7282, we're taking 2 topics for now, just as an out-of-the-box starter. Imagine life 3 years after a Hillary presidency has been in power. What would the country be like on all of the essential issues? Immigration, what would life be like in America with no wire hangers in office? Guns. Tell me about your guns. Tell me about the First Amendment. Tell me about talk radio. Tell me about the Internet. Tell me about family life. Tell me what life would be like 3 years after this woman is in the Oval Office, if that's what would happen. And I think the other question, which is catching a little wave here, which is, where do you turn for the truth, is something people do want to talk about, because in essence, I think people are looking for truth. So let's begin with the first caller. Gary on WJR in Detroit, Michigan. Gary, you're first up. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Doctor. Yeah, I turned to, believe it or not, talk radio, not just because of the guests and the actual hosts, but because of the opinions that you hear from all over the country, hundreds of different men with different opinions. And you have to sift through it, of course, to weed out the nonsense. But you find the truth in there. It is in there.
All right, so you tune into talk radio for the truth, not from the talker per se, but for the conversations that permit you to derive from all the conversation what you think is the truth.
That's correct, right.
All right, in essence, what you're saying is you need dialogue, and you need to listen in order to come to your own conclusions. It reminds me of a story I've told many times on the show. I grew up in an immigrant household. My father was an immigrant, but he was very interested in current affairs. He used to get, I remember, 5-6 newspapers a night. And I once said to him, Dad, you've got the New York Post, the New York Daily News, the Journal American, the this, to that. I said, what do you need all these newspapers for? He said, I like to read all different sides so I can make up my own mind. Isn't that what you're saying?
Oh, sure, and that's what Plato did, too. So.
Yeah, but I don't take a lot of different opinions. I'm short-tempered. I don't suffer fools gladly. So I don't know that you're going to get a lot of different sides of the coin here on this show. That definitely is the truth. See, I've just given you a truth. That's the truth. I don't know that you're going to get the truth listening to talk radio. It would be very nice of me to say, yes, we're the truth sayers, and it's a terrific thing to do, and thank you, and I'm sending you a bouquet of flowers. But I'm not so sure you can rely upon what you hear on talk radio for the truth either. So it leads us back to the first question. Where do you turn for the truth?
Lie on it.
But I thank you for the call. You've given me your opinion. That opens up 14 lines. At 855-407-2822. No, we have a number of calls. People like this topic. Remember what I said, talk radio for the thinking person, because people do like to think for themselves. And there's only so much BS they can take from television where they really don't feel they're getting the on. All right, look, people listen to talk radio and they watch television and they read a newspaper and they talk to their friends and then they think, come up to the truth and arrive at the truth. The whole concept of truth is an interesting question itself because it's being challenged by the leftists in America right now. They are saying through the deconstructionist theory, which was written by Foucault and others, I don't need to go into the philosophy of it, that there is no truth, that everything is relative. That's why they want to rewrite history. They want to tell you that you have white privilege if you're white. That's even if you're born poor, dirt poor, no advantages in life. Your parents could have been destitute. They'll tell you had white privilege just because you weren't of another race. Now, you know that's a lie. But this is the kind of garbage that we're going to have to be putting up with if Hillary wins, in my opinion, which leads us back to another question. What will the country be like in 3 years if Hillary wins? Now, that is the opening to the Savage Nation. The phone number here is 855-400-SAVAGE. That's 855-400-7282. We'll have music, poetry, art, science, philosophy, but most importantly, an attempt to arrive at the truth and all of the latest news right here on the Savage Nation.
I'm your life. I'm the one who cares. They betray.
I love my country, is all I can tell you. You know, I hear music like this, it makes me feel more American than you can imagine. It's the voice of America. Play it. It's only Metallica. And the song is only about truth. Now, we're talking about truth today. You can turn off the music on the Savage Nation. We're talking about truth. Why? Take a look at what's going on in the whole process now. One calls the other a liar. So who's the bigger liar and who's telling the truth? I don't know. We're taking a gamble. Then you got on the other side, Hillary Clinton's running on a truth campaign. We didn't have 8 years of her and Bill running America off the rails. And then we got the communist from the soapboxes of Union Square, Bernie Sanders reinventing himself. Oh, but I'm a Democrat socialist. Now suddenly he's Jewish. For the first 3 months he says, I'm a non-practicing Jew. I don't know what a non-practicing Jew is. If God made you Jewish, you're a Jew. What do you mean non-practicing? Now it's discovered he's not only not a non-practicing Jew, he's a real Jew because he realized in the campaign he needs to be a real religious person. It's unbelievable. So we look around. Who do we believe? Where do you turn for the truth, ladies and gentlemen? And does the truth matter? Aha, there's the rub. Does it really matter what the truth is? You look back on the 60s generation, the whole hippie generation, and they wanted to blow their minds with every drug, known and unknown. Every designer drug that came along, people took. And those people are running the world today, whether you know it or not. They blew out all their circuits. They could care less what the truth is because it's all about power. It's not about the truth. Look at what Obama gets away with. This man has not uttered a word of truth from the day he learned how to talk and think. The day he connected the tongue to the face, he hasn't said a truthful thing, in my opinion. Not one word that comes out of his mouth is truthful. And look what he gets away with. It just shows you. It just shows you the value of truth. It shows you that liars win. It also shows you that good liars win more and that great liars become politicians. I'm sorry to be so cynical, but I'm just trying to get to the truth. And so if you care to join the conversation, are we talking about the truth? Look, I could get philosophical here, and you'll turn the show off. I could start quoting Aristotle, Plato, Schopenhauer. I can quote some of the philosophers that I had to read in college in the first